Our speaker is Claude-Hélène Meyer from the University of Johannesburg, South Africa. Today, she presents her talk on the topic, Transforming Love Concepts in South African Indian Gen X Women.
Welcome to my talk, Transforming Love Concepts in South African Indian Gen X Women. My name is Claude-Hélène Meyer. I'm a professor in IO psychology at the University of Johannesburg. Nietzsche once said, "It is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages." Love is a culture-specific and at the same time a universal emotion. A vast literature on how love research emerges changes over time in individual lives and societies. How love is perceived and expressed and whether it leads to marriage differs across cultures. Love concepts, and the expression of love change across the lifetime of individuals. Individuals develop their ideas of what love is during the course of their lives, based on their relationships, their experiences, and the transitions of love they have to adjust to. Personality and patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that change over the lifetime also impact on love and marriages. The aims of this study are to explore love concepts in a South African sample and investigate love in the context of selected life events such as marriage, a new or a failed relationship, and divorce. To give a voice to South African Indian women of the X generation, to explore their views on love, marriage, relationships, and divorce, and how their love concept and perspectives on these life events have changed during their lives, and to express South African Indian female perspectives more deeply to understand the interlinkages of love, their personal and culture-specific views with selected life events. Bühler et al. 2023 demonstrate that life events and personality changes are very closely related. Life events such as new relationship, marriage, and divorce have the strongest effect on change in personality variables, where personality traits are defined as broad patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Life events are viewed as time-specific transitions that indicate a new status and ending a previous one. Marriage is viewed as a major life event. Dennison et al. In 2019 divide life events into gains and losses, depending on what is added to one's life, for example, a new partner or a spouse, or what is taken from one's life, like losing a spouse through divorce or death. In most of the research, marriage is viewed as a positive, normative, gain-based event. In arranged marriages, divorce is often associated with shame, stigmatization, and emotional disturbance. Luhmann et al. Find that divorce can be associated with a short-term decrease in life satisfaction, followed by a long-term increase of life satisfaction after divorce. There is a huge research void. Hardly any love research has focused on Gen X Indian South African women to explore how arranged marriage affects their love concepts. Love can grow in strength in arranged marriages, in particular through sacrifice and commitment. It has been said that there is often a tension between personal preferences of choosing partners in arranged marriages. Arranged marriages and marital experiences might lead to changes in mental health and well-being as well. Researchers have said that older, less educated, and economically deprived Indian persons are more in favor of arranged and interreligious marriages than younger, better educated, and economically independent persons. South African Muslim Indians support arranged marriages more than South African Hindus and Christian Indians. Indian South Africans are more likely than any other cultural group in South Africa to marry someone they did not love. Women are expected to know their place in the home, And love in South African Indian is strongly connected to materialism, power, and power relations, as previous literature says. The research we have been conducting is a qualitative, in-depth research methodology with a case study design. It uses a hermeneutical interpretative research approach to explore lived experience of South African Indian Gen X women. A total of 33 individuals from 6 countries, 11 interviews from South Africa, and 3 South African Indian women were interviewed. Convenience and snowball sampling techniques were used. 3 qualitative vignettes are going to be presented in this presentation. Semi-structured Zoom interviews, which lasted about 60 minutes, were conducted on average, and the content was analyzed through thematic analysis, following the steps of Clark and Hobbit. We use quality research criteria as well as ethical considerations. Here you see an overview of this sample. We talked to 3 South African Indian women of different cultural and religious background. They were all between 42 and 50 years old, and their first language was English. They were divorced, all of them, at least once, and they all had at least 1 child. Coming to the findings of this research. Vignette 1, from an arranged marriage to a kind, respectful love. A 50-year-old South African Indian woman, V, is Hindu and in 3rd-generation Indian in South Africa. My parents said there was a thing that how my mother met my father was through introduction, and that's called an arrangement. So your elders in your family would find somebody that they liked, and then the family would say they have a boy of eligible age for marriage. Her first husband was a Tamilian, and his values clashed very much with her being a career woman, having this traditional husband. She stayed for 6 years in a very abusive relationship and marriage and got divorced after 6 years. It was very difficult to go through the divorce because her family was not behind her. The second marriage was also an arranged marriage with a rich, a fancy husband, she says, with whom she fell even in love. Love found in a charming partner who made many gifts, so that was very important to her. But after some time, she was missing deeper love and kindness. We forget, she says, and we get so caught up in the little gifts and, the emotional connection, maybe even the sexuality of it, that we don't stop and reflect. She said from love based on arrangement, she moved to love based on gifts and materialism, to now love based on kindness, loving actions, and holding hands, and she is still looking for the right partner. The second vignette is focusing on love as a submission to a change in love concept to love as partnership. Jay is a 49-year-old Indian South African and has been married twice. Her first marriage was not arranged and built on physical attraction, she said. Her family was completely against the marriage, and after 3 months, she got divorced. She felt unaccepted and disconnected soon after the marriage due to her own childhood trauma, she said, and she couldn't overcome it. Her second marriage was only a traditional marriage, she highlights, since she did not want to change her surname to his. So she never went for a statal or governmental marriage, but only for a traditional Indian marriage. Her family was not happy with that at all. Both marriages were built on submission and doing what her husbands wanted, she said. In her new relationship now, she highlights love. It's an act of service. It's the kindness and consideration. It's opening the car door for me. It's pulling out my chair. It's, it's little things like that just blows me away every single day that I've never experienced before. It's the effort and the thought that he puts into me. Love is partnership. Finally, vignette number 3 is from love as a dysfunctional aspect and obligation to really falling in love. a 40-year-old Indian South African Hindu woman in the 4th generation in South Africa, talks about love. Her concept of love has changed drastically from her first marriage until today. After 2 divorces, she concludes, "For me, love is a verb. It's an action and it's a willingness and a commitment to stay together in service of the relationship." She says, "I find that the concept of love has been very much about duty and obligation in my culture. And that's something that I've sort of been the black sheep to deviate from. Because, even if you're not happy in the marriage, even if you are in an abusive situation, love means sticking it out. Moving from a very disempowered perspective to building the courage to leave was one of her major issues in her life." She says, "I believe in the philosophy of love. I'm not a Christian, but I believe in that all-compassing kind and love and life-changing spiritual love, where you connect with someone at a spiritual soul level." The study supports the hypothesis that social cultural surroundings have a major impact on love concept and life events. The love concept discussed by the woman are all related to their cultural contexts, demands, and impacts, and all deal with concepts of intimacy. All 3 women describe how their concepts of love have changed throughout their life. And women highlight that they are primarily driven by the social cultural environments and the norms and values of their cultures of origin, rather than their own personalities. Marriage is often viewed as a positive, normative, gain-based event. In this study, it shows that marriage is more a negative event when arranged. This research supports Schilling and Graf Reed, who highlight that positive effects of divorce as a major life event can happen. Besides the pain and suffering, the women in the study experienced their divorces as bringing a momentum of personal long-term growth, which led to an increased life satisfaction. The divorces led to new concepts and qualities of love, a clearer awareness and consciousness of what they want in life, but also to what kind of relationships and values they value. And also the divorces led to autonomy, self-expression, a higher motivation for personal goals, but also psychological mindedness and an increase in purpose of life. The study, it can be concluded, aimed to explore love concepts in a South African Indian Gen X sample and investigate love in the context of selected life events such as marriage and divorce. All 3 women transformed their perspectives on love tremendously during the course of their lives, going through marriages and divorces. Each of the participants were unhappy with their South African Indian traditions of arranged marriages and with playing the traditional roles of women in their families and communities. They felt that marriage was a duty and obligation rather than a love-related life event. The concept of love changed from no love or falling in love as excitement to love as a deeper connection with respect, kindness, growing together, partnership, and accepting self and others beyond imperfections. The woman used their negative and traumatic relationship and marriage experiences to develop their concepts of love and to turn their suffering and pain into healing, inner growth, and self-development. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And if you want to read further, you will find the findings published in Maya, Hold My Hand When No One's Looking, Transforming Love Concepts During Marriage and Divorce, in Maya and van der Heijden International Handbook of Love, in the 2nd edition coming out in 2025. If you need to get in contact with me, please send me an email. Thank you so much for listening.